There is a particular silence that follows a mistake. Perhaps you moved too quickly. Perhaps you raised your voice without meaning to. Perhaps you returned from a long absence and expected everything to be as it was before. A cat does not argue, does not explain, does not accuse. Instead, they withdraw. They become still in a way that feels deliberate. Their eyes grow distant. Their body shifts just out of reach. And then, sometimes days later, something changes. A glance lingers a second longer. A tail rests near your leg. A slow approach replaces careful distance. And in that small, almost invisible moment, something extraordinary happens. Welcome back. Tonight, we are not talking about obedience or training or simple behavior correction. We are entering something quieter, something more delicate. We are exploring the subtle emotional landscape of a cat who chooses to trust again, who releases tension, who steps back into connection after hesitation. Because forgiveness, in a cat's world, is never loud. It is never dramatic. Forgive is a return. The distance that speaks without sound. When a cat feels unsettled by a human, the shift is rarely explosive. It is measured, intentional, a recalibration of proximity. They may stop sitting beside you. They may choose the far end of the room. Their body remains relaxed enough to signal safety, but not open enough to signal comfort. Their eyes observe rather than soften. Their movements become efficient instead of leisurely. To someone unfamiliar with feline language, this can look like indifference. But it is not indifference. It is evaluation. Cats do not rush back into vulnerability. Their survival instincts are ancient, etched into muscle memory long before modern living rooms existed. Trust, once shaken, requires reassessment. They must watch. They must sense. They must determine whether the environment has returned to predictability. And so they wait, not in resentment, but in awareness. There is something deeply humbling about being quietly assessed by a creature who does not need you for approval. A cat's distance is not punishment. It is a pause, a moment of recalculation in which they decide whether closeness still feels safe. Forgiveness cannot occur without this space. The first softening. The beginning of forgiveness rarely announces itself. It may start with something so small you almost miss it. The cat enters the room you are in, even though there are quieter places available. They sit facing away from you, but not as far as before. Their ears remain neutral instead of angled back. The body tells the story before the eyes do. A cat who is reconsidering trust will often position themselves within reach, but not initiate contact. They are allowing possibility. They are opening a door without stepping through it. If you respond with patience, if you resist the urge to immediately scoop them up, to overcompensate with affection, something remarkable unfolds. The air changes, tension thins, their gaze softens. Eye contact in feline language is powerful. A slow blink from a cat who had been distant is not casual. It is deliberate. It is a signal that vigilance is easing. When you return that slow blink gently without intensity, you participate in the restoration. Forgiveness begins as a shared quiet. Not words, not apologies spoken aloud, but calm presence. Approach without urgency. The day a cat forgives you may look ordinary from the outside. They walk toward you, but without the cautious stiffness that marked previous days. Their tail is not tucked, nor rigid. It moves naturally, sometimes lifting slightly at the tip. Their paws step lightly, not hesitantly. And then, perhaps, they brush against your leg. This simple gesture carries layers of meaning. A cat's body is their boundary. To press it against you is to reestablish shared space. They are marking you again with their scent, blending their identity with yours. It is both territorial and intimate. Says, you are still part of my world. Forgiveness is not dramatic reconciliation. It is reintegration. Sometimes they will sit near you and begin grooming themselves. This is one of the most overlooked signs of renewed comfort. Grooming requires vulnerability. It means they no longer feel the need to remain alert. Your presence has returned to being neutral, even soothing. Other times, forgiveness shows itself in play. A cat who had avoided engagement may suddenly bring a toy closer to you or chase something near your feet. Play is trust in motion. It signals emotional safety. None of these gestures are loud, but together, they form a quiet declaration. The bond remains. Why cats do not hold grudges, but they do remember. It is tempting to imagine that cats forgive the way humans do, through conscious decision. The truth is more instinctive and, in many ways, more profound. Cats do not cling to moral judgments. They do not replay events in bitterness. But they are highly attuned to patterns. If a behavior feels threatening or unpredictable, their nervous system remembers. Forgiveness occurs when consistency returns. When your movements become gentle again. When your tone steadies. When your routine reestablishes familiarity. Their body registers this stability. Their heartbeat slows in your presence. Their muscles relax. It is not about forgetting what happened. It is about sensing that it will not continue. This is why forgiveness in cats feels earned rather than granted. It grows from repetition, from days of quiet proof, from moments in which you choose softness over impulse. In this way, a cat's forgiveness is deeply honest. Cannot be demanded, cannot be rushed. It emerges only when safety has been restored in their internal world. The invisible thread between you. There is a moment, subtle, almost sacred, when you realize the distance has dissolved. Perhaps they return to sleeping near your chest. Perhaps they expose their belly without tension in the limbs. Perhaps they rest their head against your hand and remain there, breathing slowly. This is not submission. This is trust reborn. When a cat forgives, the bond does not simply return to its previous state. It often deepens. The rupture and repair create a new layer of understanding between you. You become more aware of your movements, more attuned to their signals, more respectful of their boundaries. They, in turn, approach with renewed openness. There is something profoundly moving about being trusted again by a creature who had every right to remain distant. It feels like being chosen, not assumed. And perhaps that is why cat forgiveness feels so powerful. It is voluntary. What forgiveness teaches us. Living with a cat means learning to slow down. Their forgiveness does not respond to urgency. It responds to steadiness. It asks you to regulate yourself before asking them to relax. It invites you to become predictable, gentle, aware. In many ways, their emotional rhythm teaches us about our own. How often do we try to repair connection through noise rather than presence? How often do we rush reconciliation instead of allowing space for nervous systems to settle? Cat shows us another way. They step back when needed. They observe. They wait for calm to return. And when it does, they re-enter closeness without resentment. There is wisdom in that simplicity. To forgive is not to erase. It is to return to safety. The quiet return to normal. Days after the shift, you may barely remember the distance. They follow you into the kitchen again. They sit beside you in the evening light. Their tail curls around your arm as if it never stopped. Life resumes its familiar rhythm, but something inside you remains changed. You move more gently now. You listen more closely. You notice the flick of an ear, the tension in a shoulder, the subtle signs of overstimulation. You understand that trust is not a permanent possession but an ongoing exchange. And your cat, in their wordless way, seems to know that you understand. Forgiveness, in the feline world, is not a grand event. It is a quiet continuation, a soft reopening of shared space, a decision made not with logic, but with the body's sense of ease. It is the slow blink across the room, the brush of fur against your ankle, the steady weight of a sleeping form beside you. If your cat has ever withdrawn from you, and later returned, you have witnessed something delicate and profound. You have been given the opportunity to rebuild trust without language. And if you are currently in that space of distance, if your cat is watching you from across the room, still measuring, still uncertain, remember this: patience is louder than apology. Consistency is clearer than words, and calm presence is the bridge back to connection. One day, perhaps when you least expect it, they will step closer again. They will sit beside you. They will close their eyes slowly, and in that stillness you will feel it. Not dramatic, not announced, but real. They have forgiven. If this quiet exploration resonated with you, if you have experienced that subtle return of trust, consider subscribing and joining us again. Here, we continue to observe the silent language of cats, not to control it, but to understand it more deeply. Until next time, move gently. They are always watching, and sometimes, beautifully, they are choosing to stay.